Okay, so we're going to talk about constructors and building our own classes in this video. So we're going to do that through talking a little bit about triangles, kind of to create a shape, and we're going to think about it in a different way. So I've set up a project in BlueJ. You might be doing this in your Chapter 2 folder or whatever, and I'm going to call this class triangle. Right, so this is going to be the triangle class. Leave it as a class. Click OK, and now I'm going to open up that file I just created. As usual, I'm going to delete everything that's there and create everything I need from scratch. So as usual, right, make sure you put in your comments, um, usual comments, right? I'm going to save some time and not put in mine here and jump right into the nitty gritty of what we need to do. So we want to call this this class. This is called triangle, right? So we're setting up all of the usual stuff that you guys know how to do already. And we need a few different things in here. So every triangle has three sides, right? And that's basically what every triangle object is going to be made up of. So we're going to instantiate, create some variables that are going to hold that information for us, right? So when I create a triangle object, I'm going to have each triangle object will have these variables. Now, so these are what we call the fields or instance variables, right? We want to make sure we recognize that term. Instance variables are always private because they are only accessible within that class itself. So that's a convention we follow. We could make them public, but it's a convention we follow to make them private. So our fields are private, so I'm going to have three sides. So I'm going to have side A, side B, and side C. And we always end with a semicolon, right, as usual. Oh, and I forgot something there. These sides are all going to be of a certain data type. We're going to say int. Right, so I've got three sides, all integers. If you so choose, you could name these instead. You could do this on 3 lines. That's completely fine. Either way. Now I'm going to go down a little bit, and I'm going to create a method, right? So something that we're going to access. So I'm going to call this method. It's going to be a void method, and let's call this method the print method. Print triangle. Okay. So this method is going to print the triangle information for us on the screen, right? So I'm going to go ahead and create my standard stuff for the method, and let's do this now system.out.println, and we're going to say this is side A. I'm going to add in a bunch of information now, plus, now I'm going to access that variable, side A, right? Plus, we need comma, side. Actually, I'm going to do this on a new line. Side B. And we're just typing out some information here. Oh, space. Okay, so we'll see how that ends up looking. If that gives us everything we need there. I've got a little extra. Oh, and I don't want to forget ending my bracket. So good. We've got a method now. We've got 3 variables, side A, side B, and side C, and then we've got this print triangle method as well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in, we need to set this information somehow, right? When this triangle gets created, we need to set this, and that's what we call the constructor. So I'm going to call this the constructor right here. We may have multiple constructors. And so the very first constructor I'm going to have is what if I want to set all of this information through incoming parameters. So the constructor, like we talked about last chapter, has the same name as the class. So I'm going to say public triangle. And I need to say what's coming in, right? The parameters coming in. So I know I'm going to have an integer A, I'm going to have an integer B, and I'm going to have an integer C. And you can probably guess what those are going to be eventually. And let me do a little formatting and get all of this information in here. So when we create the object, the triangle object, right, this information is going to come in to this constructor, right, and that's going to build this object for us in essence. So I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to go and say side A, that's going to equal A. I'm going to do side B, that equals B. and side C, that equals C. All right, so that's permanently taking all of that information that's above and getting that ready for us. Let me do a little formatting there, make this look a little bit better. Good, and so now we have the basics here. I'm actually going to add, for the sake of practicing a little bit, I'm going to set some base, I'm going to add to this a little bit. I'm going to add one more constructor, right? We can actually have as many constructors as we want. And this one is going to be called the default constructor, because you'll notice I'm putting nothing in the parentheses that are there, right? So I'm putting nothing in the parentheses. It means it's the default constructor. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy what I had above and paste it. But the difference is that I'm not going to say A, B, and C, because those don't exist right where we are. I'm going to set them all equal to 0. So my default triangle really isn't going to be much of a triangle. It's just going to be set to 0. All right, let me compile my code, make sure I have everything good. And good, class compiled with no errors. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to create a triangle runner, right? So I've created this triangle class. Now I'm going to create a runner. Okay, so I'm going to go back, do new class, and I'm going to call this triangle runner. Click OK. Open it up as usual. Delete all of my stuff that's in here, and of course we're going to have the usual comments that I'm leaving for you to do on your own. We're going to say public class triangle runner, and now let's put in our information that we need. So this public class triangle runner, the main point to this is going to be to run the other one. So I'm going to do public static void main string args, as we've done to create other runners before. And now I need the actual stuff for this. So this is now a runnable class. Compile it, make sure we're good. Oh, I made a mistake there somewhere, didn't I? So we had something that Java's not liking. There we go. Easy mistake to make. Got my slashes backwards. Okay, so now we've got our main method. I'm going to create objects of this, and then I'm going to call that print method we created before, right? I think we can't quite see it under there, but we compile again to make sure it looks good. Good. And so, like I said, we're going to create a new triangle object. So triangle, because that's the type of object I want to create, and I'm going to call this first triangle, first try. Equals new triangle. Now this point here is calling the constructor that we're dealing with, right? So we have, this is going to call the empty constructor, the default constructor. And so now when I do first try dot print triangle, is that what I call that method? I think so. Let's see if it compiles. Good sign. So that's what I called it. So we should see an output of zeros for this, right? So I should see an output of zeros. If I now go and create another one, so triangle second try, that's going to equal new triangle, but this side I'm going to create a 3, 4, 5 triangle. So here I'm going to put in my parameters. So 3, 4, 5, those are all integers because the other constructor took in 3 different parameters. Excuse me. So now we'll do second try, dot print triangle, that same method. And there we go. Let's see if this compiles. Very good. Looks like I didn't make any mistakes that time. So now I can go back to my triangle demo that I was talking about here, right? And so we see this arrow of that relationship and everything's compiled. So now if I go ahead and right click on triangle runner, I can run the main, right? Run the main, hit OK as usual. And there we go. We see we've got, we have some errors. So let's go back and see what we had for some errors. I was expecting to see some different things in there. Maybe we made a mistake. I see the 3 and the 5 and the 0 and the 0. That's kind of a peculiar error. Probably something in our... you'll notice if we look at the print method what was the mistake I made there. I forgot to put plus side B, the variable side B. Had all the other information, so now I compile. Let's go back and try this again. I should see double information since I didn't clear my console window. All right, so run that, okay, and there we go. Now I see in the second set there, right, 0, 0, 0, 3, 4, 5, and we're in good shape, right? So that's the basics on creating a constructor and creating a very basic class, right? We had created the triangle class, and then we created the triangle runner that actually ran the information for us, right? So we're doing that. We're going to see that structure in all of the labs we do. big takeaways, keep in mind we want to know what fields are, right? Those are the variables that are only available to each individual triangle. And we can see how we create some basic constructors here, right? And then we also have our methods, which we talked last chapter a lot about creating, right? So that's the structure of basically every lab that we're going to be doing for the rest of the course.